Are you bored of Deepwoken? Want something fun that's similar but not Deepwoken? Maybe parry-based? Well, guess what? You should try
any Roblox CC game.
They promise to deliver Deepwoken-like combat, but they won't, and they will probably exit scam. Join today!
It just doesn't exist. There really is nothing like Deepwoken on all of Roblox. The development team, Monad Studios, are one of, if not the most influential game studio on Roblox, with Deepwoken's predecessor Rogue Lineage inspiring a lot of games, and now that Deepwoken is out and well approaching its 4th year on the platform, a whole lot of people are trying to copy Deepwoken. Its combat is widely regarded as some of the best on Roblox by all but its players, and because of that, games which appeal to that side of combat appeal to everyone, whether it's Deepwoken players tired of Deepwoken, kids who can't buy Deepwoken so they look for a free alternative, or people just looking for something fun with good combat, to the point where being Deepwoken adjacent is now its own marketing. Now, while there are tons of games like Deepwoken which lack originality and somehow manage to mess up their Deepwoken homogeneous combat, yes, this is a real term I read in an advertisement for a game, why is it that these games can't seem to land the combat down? Well, usually it's because their game's movement mechanics don't match the pacing Deepwoken combat requires. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about how hard it is for original ideas to sprout into something important, because being 3 years old, I'm sure even Deepwoken's player base is tired of the lack of originality in Deepwoken's recent updates. Here's a quick list of everything unoriginal in Deepwoken. That was like 10% of Deepwoken's unoriginality, but inspiration has to come from somewhere or at least someone. You see, Deepwoken's biggest issue is probably just the fact that they're very closed off to new developers or even new teams in general to do with their game. A good example of this is Deepwoken's lore, a writing mess full of retcons and miscommunication the devs have in what seems to be a Google Doc file, and every time someone says something in the Discord and they are a developer, the lore just keeps getting added onto. Which is really funny that most of the game's lore is actually shown through Discord messages and not in the game. Deepwoken just needs some sort of lore team because the same developers working on the game are writing lore, and a good developer you may be, a writer you are not. But Deepwoken's actual updates struggle with the same issue, and that's because of common burnout. The first genuinely decent legendary weapon in a while, the Blood Fowler, recently came out, and with it a unique obtainment that makes it a welcome addition to the game. Now, while this weapon is good, and it's also good because Blood just needed a legendary, there's a whole lot of weapons which aren't so good. The Deepwoken devs clearly struggle with ideas at times, and it's hard to find new developers for more reasons than one. First of all, a lot of developers are kids. Many of Roblox's most talented leads are like 16 and don't have jobs. This is complicated for two reasons. 16-year-olds are kinda dumb and are more likely to leak your entire game's code and assets for a paycheck, and 16-year-olds aren't really able to be contracted. A big problem with Roblox development is leaking, which occurs quite a lot, especially recently, and without a contract to legally bind someone to their assigned position, developers can be untrustworthy, especially considering if you're newly hiring them, you don't know them and they don't care about you or your game. They're only working with you because they want the pay. This also makes them less likely to put out their best work, more than likely going to be going for the bare minimum that they can get away with, resulting in sometimes sloppy work. And the rest of Deepwoken's development team is pretty much only working part-time. Reaconteur and Archmage are the project leads and the most active devs, and while they're working on Conquest, there's a whole lot more they need to test, do back-end scripting for, and fix all in time for the weekly updates. From new weapons to balancing changes, they have quite a lot to work on. But all this work they input into their game is proof that they do care, and is part of why Deepwoken is the most unique experience on Roblox. This small dev team is putting all of their effort into it, and especially during pre-release, and it really shows. And as imitation is the greatest form of flattery, that brings us to Deepwoken's various combat copies. First up, and in my opinion, the best game inspired by Deepwoken is Type Soul. Yeah, some of you are going to severely disagree with me, but honestly, I think Type Soul does it best because they didn't try very hard to be Deepwoken. Type Soul decided to do parry-based non-stun style combat like Deepwoken, but they went their own way with it, making it work with their game's movement and mechanics and abilities, which other games don't do nearly as well. Most of the time, other games attempt to mimic Deepwoken's parry-based combat as close to the source as possible, but they don't focus on their movement and combat mechanics in the same way, and because of that you get a lot of games with clunky combat and poor pacing, because they decided to just make parry-based combat without putting their own spin on it. Another example is Sorcery, which just had their second exit scam from the same person on a different Discord account, and somehow nobody figured it out until it happened. Anyway, Sorcery's combat was parry-based as well, but their movement is extremely floaty and it honestly just doesn't work that well. Then you have games like Paradox, another Bleach game which also has movement that doesn't match Deepwoken's parrying. Every game that tries to copy Deepwoken always seems to do it for marketing reasons. They decided to make the game parry-based to market it to slightly older Roblox players, then they continue to make their game with the mechanics that they initially wanted that don't match the ones that they started with, and they end up with games that never feel exactly right or satisfying to play because, you know, nothing really matches as far as the mechanics go. And they usually never last that long. I can't name a single game that was meant to mimic Deepwoken that is still very popular. Type Soul was the most successful, and while I think it could come back again with its next big update, because, you know, it came back from 0 players once, I think they can maybe do it twice. I can't name a single game that is currently successful which has been inspired off of Deepwoken, because nobody can do originality and uniqueness on Roblox quite as well as Monad Studios. They truly are the only people who I've seen who are able to really make something great with their own original ideas. When I say, what do you think the best games on Roblox are, a lot of people will say things like Rel Cs, but that's not really original either, now is it? It is a One Piece game. They don't have a single original idea in that entire game because it's based on something already. Deepwoken is truly unique because the developers had to create the world from scratch. But Deepwoken wasn't the only really unique game made by Monad. As mentioned previously, Rogue Lineage was the game that they made before it, and like Deepwoken, it had a new unique combat style that many games attempted to replicate. Before Rogue Lineage, pretty much all combat on Roblox was full stun combat, where you kind of just spam all of your skills and hit people with all of them, and you would essentially take turn-based fights because every combo lasted too long. Rogue Lineage was the first game that had any real popularity in which the combat wasn't entirely combo-based like this. Rogue Lineage's mini-stun style of combat allowed you to escape combos with small opportunities between moves where you could block or maybe dodge or get out with certain abilities. And this was very new and ushered in an era of rogue-like Roblox games. Yes, people started calling Rogue Lineage copies or inspired games on Roblox roguelikes. That is already a thing. Roguelike is already a video game genre. Why did they decide on this name? Anyway, depending on if you know about Rogue and its various likes such as Risk of Rain, you might only know roguelike as inspired by Rogue Lineage. And this at the time was the most original thing on all of Roblox. It was also the first permadeath game on Roblox, which I haven't even mentioned, but there are so many games made after Rogue Lineage and Deepwoken which were made to be permadeath as another marketing scheme to appeal to the players of these games. And today they're still being made. Developers will keep marketing their games toward people that like Monad Studios because they know, oh, if they play Monad games, they can afford to pay for the game. They're probably older, which means if I just make a game and sell it and market it towards the people that are buying these games, I can probably make a lot of money off of it. And while I'm doing that, let me just slap in various popular anime on it, and boom, you have $1 million idea. Overall, Deepwoken is one of the most unique and original experiences on Roblox. A lot of people say that they aren't, or at least haven't been recently, because of references to other games and their weapons and taking from other media, and also the quote-unquote slop new weapons and updates, which ironically, I hate the term slop because it in itself is making all of your vocabularies look like slop. Please learn a new word. While the game updates haven't been the absolute best, especially considering the devs are working towards Conquest when most people want stuff like Layer 3 or good new PvE content or lore-based content added to the game. But they're still hard at work, and while they're working slowly on Conquest, the future holds much greater updates like Void Tower and potentially new depth layers and PvE content that everyone wants mutually, that we'll be getting in 2030. Monad Studios is easily, and I think will remain, the most influential group on all of Roblox. Twice now, they have completely revolutionized Roblox games and resulted in so many copies and attempted recreations of their games, it's actually insane. While many of you guys are probably hyped for other games, really think about how original their concepts are. Are they based on anime, other games, maybe some other form of media even? Many of those are probably answered with a yes, because a lot of Roblox games just aren't that original and are based on something. So before you talk about how other games are updating way more than Monad Studios is updating Deepwoken, remember that other games probably have source material that they can rip straight from. But completely original games on Roblox are a very rare find, and most of them are passion projects that never get much attention, which is where Deepwoken and Rogue Lineage stand out, being two of the most passionate games that have released and have actually made a difference and gotten noticed on the platform of Roblox. If you enjoyed, subscribe, watch the live channel. Shoutouts to Goobka, Drizzy Drake Fan, and Brick. I love you all. I hope you all enjoyed. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and goodbye.